We're going to talk about irony because irony is something that authors use often to be able to make the text more interesting, and also because irony happens in real life all the time. So if we're trying to write something that mimics real life, then obviously irony should be something that is included within the writing. There are three different types of irony. The first is verbal irony. This is probably the irony most of you are most familiar with. This occurs when a speaker's intention is the opposite of what he or she is saying. So, for example, if someone steps into a hurricane and says, "Wow, what nice weather we're having," that is verbal irony because that is opposite of what he or she is saying. So, some examples are if you say, "Oh, great," after you fail an exam. Or if you say, "as sunny as a winter day in Alaska." Or if you say something was soft like concrete. Or clear as mud. These are all examples of verbal irony because you're not really truly meaning what you're saying. And most of the time, you're saying this to be witty. So, for example, if I said to Troy, "Hey, Troy, how did you like the biology lesson yesterday?" And he was like, "Yup, it was clear as mud." I obviously know that he did not understand it, right? He's saying it was not very clear. If somebody who I know hates English, if I say, "How's English going?" and they say, "Oh, English is just fantastic," they don't really mean that, right? That's verbal irony. It is opposite of what they mean. The next type of irony that we're going to talk about, excuse me, is situational irony. Situational irony occurs when the actual result of a situation is completely different than what you'd expect the result to be. Excuse me. Sitcoms often use this situational irony. For example, if there was an anti-technology website, you wouldn't think an anti-technology movement would be on technology. If a fire station was burning to the ground, that is situational irony. If a traffic cop gets his license suspended because he didn't pay parking tickets. If a pilot was afraid of heights. If a marriage counselor filed for divorce. If a teacher failed a test. I like to use this one a lot because I like to pick on Mrs. Roth and I love her to death, so I'm picking on her. It would be like if Mrs. Roth taught you all hour about healthy eating choices and made you look at caloric intake and all those kinds of things, and then you went after school and saw her mowing down on 2 Big Macs. That would be a situational irony. Something happening totally different than what you'd expect. And the last kind of irony is dramatic irony. This occurs when the audience knows more information than the characters do in a play or book or movie. It makes us say to characters, "Don't do that, don't go in there, oh no." For example, in Toy Story, the human characters are not aware that the toys speak, while the audience is aware. So there's a lot of times characters are doing things and it's interfering with the toys. And we know that, but they don't know that. In Romeo and Juliet, Romeo thinks Juliet is dead, but the audience knows that she only took a sleeping potion. So we know that, and if Romeo would have knew that, things would be different. But he didn't. So in Star Wars, the audience knows Darth Vader is Luke's father, but Luke doesn't know until episode 5. So those are kind of instances where we know more than the characters or the people in the movies or plays. Another good example of this is reality TV has really taken into this a lot. So shows like Survivor or Big Brother or different shows where people form alliances and have to vote each other off. we as the audience get to see everything that's going on, but the players themselves do not. So there's times when we see players doing things, we're like, no, 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 don't do that, don't do that. But they don't know because we're like from the outside looking in. So those are the 3 types of irony. There's dramatic irony, situational irony, and verbal irony. Again, irony sometimes can just help make things more interesting. It can make us laugh. It can make us cry. It can be funny. It can also be very tragic, such as in Romeo and Juliet. So irony is used to invoke emotion in the reader one way or another and to mimic real life situations. So what you're going to do today, and this obviously document can be found on the checklist. It will always be there for you along with this video. What you're going to do today is you're going to use this graphic organizer and you're going to find me an example of verbal, situational, and dramatic irony so far in the Crucible. You'll tell me what happened here, just briefly, and then you're going to tell me why is that verbal irony, or why is that situational, or why is that dramatic. You may work with your group that you sit with today to complete this task, and this is on the website.